Loud and clear, we like to be left alone. Kids screaming, dog whining, cat on the throne. Tesco club card chaos, snacks hit the floor. The antisocial podcast, your headphone escape. Decompress, chaos you'll adore.
Hello and welcome back. If you're new here, I should probably warn you now. This podcast is basically what happens when normal life refuses to behave itself, and I make the questionable decision of turning it into a story instead of just lying down in a dark room. It's family life, neighbour chaos, and the general feeling that the outside world is just slightly too confident about itself. So it's not polished, it's not inspirational, and it's definitely not one of those morning routine podcasts where someone tells you to drink lemon water and become a millionaire. Before we get into today's episode, just a quick bit of housekeeping. Follow the podcast so you don't miss future disasters. Also, if you're listening on YouTube, hit that subscribe button if you enjoy hearing about people surviving everyday life in increasingly questionable ways. Right, now, this week's episode involves a dog with the spatial awareness of a falling wardrobe, a toddler discovering physics in real time, a wife briefly experiencing unexpected pavement contact, and a neighbour who has appeared to have turned barking into a scheduled evening activity. It's one of those weeks where you don't even react properly anymore. You just kind of stand there thinking, surely this isn't what other families are doing. Now let's get into it. So, we go out for what I would describe, in hindsight and very generously, as a family walk. In reality, it's more like transporting a small chaotic ecosystem through public space. We've got me trying to look like I'm in control, my toddler operating on pure unpredictable energy, and my wife holding everything together, emotionally and logistically, and our Doberman, who is basically a moving event. She's not aggressive, that's not the issue. She's just enthusiastic, in a way that feels physically unsafe. She doesn't walk straight forwards like a normal dog. She walks like her head is magnetised to whichever leg happens to be on her side at that time, like her body is still negotiating which configuration it prefers. So we're walking along and everything is vaguely fine, which is usually the warning sign, and then it happens. My toddler walks straight into the dog, not in a dramatic way, not in a slow motion cinematic moment, more like a small human colliding with something that was always going to happen. He goes flying, and I immediately scoop him up like a panicked airport worker retrieving luggage that has fallen off a conveyor belt. I check him over, he's crying, but he's alive, offended by reality. Then I look out the corner of my eye, and I see my wife, on the floor, fully horizontal, not tripped slightly, not sat down awkwardly, properly on the ground like gravity has personally selected her as a target. And for a moment I just can't compute how we've escalated from pleasant walk to full family collapse event in under 5 seconds. Then it clicks. The Doberman has basically performed a gentle but firm relocation of my wife from upright to not upright. She's laughing. My toddler's crying, I'm laughing because I don't have any other emotional options left at this point, and the dog is just standing there like, I don't understand why everybody is behaving incorrectly, I followed my instincts. And to top it off, across the road there was a family, actively pretending we don't exist, which honestly feels like the correct response. We managed to stumble home and afterwards, both of them, my wife and my toddler, end up with bandages on, like it's some kind of shared dramatic performance. Matching injuries, matching outrage, very over the top. You'd think we'd returned from battle, not a 12-minute walk around the block. There's a moment in life where you realise some people meditate for peace, some people take long mindful walks, some people journal, breathe deeply and sip herbal tea in search of balance. And then there are some people like us, who simply step outside with a large, enthusiastic dog and immediately enter a completely different discipline of existence that can only really be described as controlled survival, with occasional applause for nobody getting seriously injured. Now, separate issue, but equally concerning in its own quiet way. Every evening, without fail, our neighbour walks his dog past our house. Standard behaviour, nothing unusual there, except There is a routine, and routines are where things start to get weird. Because my cat sits in the window every night, sitting there judging the world, doing cat things, emotionally unavailable to society. And every single time the neighbour stops. And then he starts encouraging his dog to bark at her. Not in a quick, oh, the dog barked once way. No, this is structured, like a planned activity. He stands there for several minutes going, go on, bark at it, look at it. And the dog, to be fair, is extremely committed to the task. So it barks at a completely still cat through a window who does not react at all. It's basically a live demonstration of emotional stability versus peer pressure. And then after a few minutes, the neighbour just walks off like he's completed something. Like, yes, good session, solid effort. We really made contact with the target today. And I'm inside watching this in my pyjamas thinking, is this a hobby? Is this enrichment for the dog? Is this enrichment for him? Is this some kind of low-stake neighbourhood sport I wasn't invited to? Or do I just live in a house where window-based psychological warfare is just part of the culture? Because he doesn't even look embarrassed. And if anything, he looks satisfied. Like he's logging progress. Like next week he'll bring a clipboard. And the worst part is I can't even intervene without making it weirder, because what do you say? Excuse me, could you please stop running your daily barking rehearsal at my extremely unbothered cat? It sounds insane. So I just sit there, slowly becoming part of the furniture, watching this man conduct what can only be described as a public access barking seminar. And the cat is the only one behaving correctly. She's just staring through the glass like, you are all ridiculous, I live here. I pay no attention to any of you. Like, they're genuinely strange people anyway, and this is just one of their regular activities that happens to involve my window and a deeply unbothered cat, because there's also this other thing they do. Sometimes we'll just be getting out the car with our 3-year-old, normal arrival, bags, keys, chaos, and it just feels like that alone is enough stress for one moment. And at that exact time, like it's part of some ongoing personal system they refuse to explain, they'll just let the dog out the front door. No warning, no recall, no hesitation. Just dog appears. And it comes running straight over, barking at our toddler, like this is a feature of the street rather than something you'd normally prevent. Which leaves me standing there, half unloading the car, thinking, oh, okay, so this is just what they do. This is not an incident. This is a pattern. Because from their side, it feels completely normal. But from our side, it feels like every arrival is met with an unscheduled test of everyone's patience. And the cat, of course, remains in the window, observing all of it like she's quietly confirming that yes, this household is still the only sane one on the street. And honestly, this is why I don't leave my house more than necessary. Because every time you go outside, you realise something unsettling. People are just doing things confidently, without any real agreement on whether it makes sense. So that's basically the week. We went out for what was meant to be a simple family walk, and somehow ended up accidentally demonstrating how quickly a household can completely fall apart in public. In about 10 minutes, we managed a toddler launched via accidental canine contact, a wife briefly testing the pavement like it was part of the plan, a Doberman confidently denying all responsibility, and a group of strangers collectively deciding they had never seen us in their lives. And just when I thought that was the peak of it, we discovered our neighbour has a nightly routine that can only be described as stand still, point dog at window cat, encourage barking, and leave satisfied, which is either commitment or something I'm not qualified to unpack. Anyway, if you've listened this far, you're either very understanding, very bored, or mildly concerned about my life. If you enjoyed it, follow the podcast so you can hear next week's inevitable incident. And subscribe so you don't miss whatever my Doberman decides is normal behaviour next week. And if there's one thing to take away from this episode, let it be this. Never trust a quiet walk. It's usually just the opening scene. Until then, leave me alone.
That's a wrap. You've had your fix. The Antisocial Podcast. Catch the next mix. Stay chill, stay weird, and out of the crowd. We'll be back soon, talking loud. Well, kinda loud. Blah, 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah.